Welcome back for round 2.
Thanks, Freddy.
Yeah, look, it was great that we were getting into all the aspects of weight loss and health and looking after yourself in the mature years, and any years for that matter. But one of the reasons that we're back here again is to talk about the moving away from values, the moving towards values.
Yes.
And the emotional issues that are attached with self-image and self-esteem, because without an understanding of that, this is where all the yo-yo dieting or the weight on, weight off, weight on, weight off.
Yeah.
It's you sabotage yourself because of your low self-worth, self-esteem.
Absolutely. So the way I see it, there's a couple of sides to this. To some degree, it can be just ignorance. You know, I mean, many years ago, all my friends were going vegetarian or vegan. I tried to do that myself, and it did not work for me at all. I became fat, sick, I lost muscle tone, my skin was a mess, my mouth was a mess. It just didn't work at all. And so, to me, that I was working on wrong information. So, my body did not work, and I was eating the lentils and the beans and the nuts, and I was preparing them right, and I was making sure I was getting enough protein, allegedly, supposedly, but it didn't work for me. I was an absolute mess. And I remember when I went back to eating meat, I felt like I just came alive again. A surge of energy came straight away, and within a week my digestion was much better. Everything was starting to work better.
Well, I was a vegetarian for 18 years. I was a vegan for 3. I love vegans, they taste delicious. All my vegan friends out there, it's cool. Because what I realise is that what's important to a person in their values, their beliefs, they're important to them, and I respect that.
Yeah.
And I respect that for some people, veganism is definitely the way to go and it works for them. What I have found at my age, I'm still cycling through things now, I'm 70, and I'm still... School's out, you know, I haven't formulated any permanent beliefs about anything at the moment. But what I am trending towards is finding out the truth about moderation. I mean, everything in moderation, including moderation, right?
Well, yeah, try having arsenic moderately. You know, there are some things you're better off without completely. And with some things, it's easier not to have any than to have any. I know for me, if I have any carbs or sugar, it clicks me into craving carbs and sugar again.
Yeah.
Even if I just have, I used to love mangoes. I'd buy them by the box. Now I have half a mango and it starts me on that sugar roller coaster.
Got it.
And I'm craving more sugars and more carbs. The next 2 or 3 days, it takes effort.
Yeah, well...
Once I'm having 0 carbs again, it's easy because I'm burning fat all the time.
Yeah.
And my energy is constant. You know, I did I think it was about a 15-kilometre hike. It was, the total climb was round about a kilometre up to Mount Donna Buang, and did that. Now I was by 5 to 10 years the oldest in the group, apart from my partner, and I had a good breakfast. I had a couple of eggs with a little bit of liver and a whole bunch of veggies, and then I headed off. Now all the others were eating muesli bars and other snacks all the way up. The only thing I had on the way up was water with a pinch of salt added. That's another story. But as I was going up, I was up with the leaders, but there was a big group. There's probably, I'm guessing, 25, 30 people in the group. And there were some people I was conscious of way behind. So I was moving to the top, going back to the people at the back, finding out what they were at, relaying that to the people up the front, going back. So, you know, I probably did an extra 5Ks in that trip, just with the running backwards and forwards. And I did it carrying an extra person's pack, because one of the 20-year-olds who smoked was unable to carry his own pack. But I didn't need to eat stuff on the way because I was burning fats.
It's funny you should say that. I went to Machu Picchu in Peru, and similar story group, and I was the only one that could climb all the peaks and do the walk fully myself at the rate I did. No one else could come near me, and I did that something like 6-7 years ago, and there were guys there with the big tats and muscles and everything, and they go, "What is it?" And I said, "You guys out partying last night, you didn't even climatise yourself, because the altitude's pretty high." I said, "You're drinking and smoking, of course you're not." And all through my life, when I've had my health peaks, people remark, and I know it's good genes from Dad, but it's also the habits that I picked up, and I haven't been unhealthy my whole life. I've weaved in and out and oscillated for the very reasons you said, the emotional traumas and things like that. We've all been, everyone I would say has experienced trauma, to some degree. And unresolved trauma is what plays out in our lives in various ways, and one way unresolved trauma plays out is through eating disorders.
Yes. Or let's call it disordered eating.
Yeah.
So, first of all, and this is an interesting one, we think of traumas as someone that's been to war, or someone that's been had some serious abuse, or a car accident maybe where a family member passed away. And yes, those are the obvious ones, and those are huge, but the little traumas every day are often bigger.
Well, some of them are cumulative as well.
Yeah.
If someone has been ostracised over a long period of time, or put down, like kids at school, or the father clips the kid over the back of the head and calls him brains trust, or professor, or something like that, and that's a repeated thing over 5-6 years. That trauma is deep set.
Yeah, and I've worked with a couple in a similar situation where they've said something like, my parents were good, they took care of all my physical needs, I always had food, always had clean clothes, but my mum or my dad told me you were the worst thing that ever happened to me. Everything wrong with my life is your fault. There's something like that repeated can, in most cases, will have a bigger effect than the one that's been through something severe that we think of as a trauma.
And the thing is, we're still open and susceptible to trauma till the day we die. We can be traumatised in our mature years. We can be traumatised yesterday, today, tomorrow. Trauma can happen to us, different situations.
But that is true, and the real root of most of our traumas goes back before the age of 7.
Yes, a repeated pattern. Like a Gestalt thing where the first incident was before 7, then there was one at 11, one at 15, one at 21. That carries a pattern through their life.
Exactly.
Why have I set myself up for these repetitive things?
Yeah.
And basically it's like a metronome ticking like that in someone's life, and they've got, when they do some really good timeline therapy and work on themselves, and they go back and they go, oh, it happened here, it happened here, it happened here, until they get to that root cause where it first initiated.
And I found that fascinating, because there are times when I've been through really challenging things in life, and other people have said, how on earth can you get through that? And it's a breeze, not a problem. And when I check back, it's because that didn't have any hooks into that early stuff.
Yeah.
And yet another time something comes up for me in life that is, it's not that big a deal, but it just about knocks my wheels off. And I go, I thought I'd worked on everything, but there's still that thing back there I've got to deal with.
Yeah. So
many years ago, I read a book. It's called "You're Never Upset for the Reason You Think."
So title.
So the basic gist of it is, and I don't think you can get the book anymore, but I think it's by Lane and Paul Cutright, or it might just be by Lane Cutright. I'm not sure, but. The gist of it is, with very few exceptions, if you're still upset more than 15-20 minutes after something's happened, then the real cause of that is something that happened way back in your childhood. And I remember, for example, I would get triggered into road rage just like that. I'd get into an absolute fury. Well, I did some, it was mainly timeline therapy and later some EFT, emotional freedom techniques, to resolve that stuff with Mum. And I got a totally different perception of Mum. It transformed my relationship with her. But what was fascinating was, after doing that work, I remember driving to work and someone cut me off in traffic. Now, the old me would have been ranting and raving and screaming like a lunatic, and I'm just going, oh yeah, she's in a hurry. Whoa.
Yeah, unaware that she's...
But there was no charge.
Yeah, no charge.
So I wasn't angry at the driver that cut me off in the past. I was angry at Mum and my dad and my sister maybe, and you know, maybe the school teacher and the other kids at school. It's that stuff that was making me angry at this driver. And of course I wasn't consciously aware of it.
Right.
But that was triggering it. And of course, it's the same with food. The reason I was so addicted to ice cream and chocolate, for example, was that my grandmother was my model for unconditional love. She and my auntie would just pour love with nothing expect in return. And she would come in and say, look what I got for you. And she'd give my sister and I some chocolate. I'd run away and hide and eat mine, you know, as quick as I could. And so that set an imprint. Chocolate equals grandma's love.
Got it.
Now, the other one was ice cream, and on Sundays, our reward, I guess, for being bought out of our scones at church was to come home and we'd sit around a 4-litre tub of family tub of ice cream.
Oh, wow.
So ice cream also equaled family connection and family love.
Yeah.
So, you know, when I was 13, 14, 15 and all the hormones kicking in and I felt unloved and all that other stuff going on, chocolate and ice cream were the quick fixes.
Well, here's the thing. Addictions run in us all. Everyone has addictions. And as soon as they discover a new food, a neural pathway, they'll etch it in and they'll run on that because it takes away responsibility of decision. It's just autopilot, metaprogram just running. And I never realised, like, I've never done heroin or coke, or, you know, I'm not a smoker or a drinker, and I think, oh, I got no addictions. Oh my God, do I have addictions? Thousands of them. Like, every pattern is an addiction. It just digs in. And when you realise you don't have choice around a behaviour, that's an addiction. When you've got choice around a behaviour, it's a little bit different. For instance, for me, with chocolate, I no longer buy sweets or lollies, but occasionally every couple of months I get this really crazy yearning, so I go and buy some crystallised ginger, right?
Yeah.
So the beauty about that is I've got a rule, I've got to make it last, you know, like I'm not going to just sit down and waffle a whole pack. When it's gone, the trick is it's not coming back. I have to cycle onto something else and stay away from that, because if I can't say yes or no at a party and see them on the table and just leave it there, it's an addiction.
Yeah. And the challenge is, though, and I've got personal experience with this, if you have 5 or 10 different addictive behaviours, often you don't care which one it is. So I was convinced I didn't have a problem with alcohol or marijuana or sweet food or raging till 3 a.m. because it didn't matter which of those I did.
That's funny you should say that. That's profound. You know, that is so profound.
But
that's the game I've been playing.
But is scuba diving an addiction? Heck yeah. If you scuba dive every single weekend, do 2, 3 or 4 scuba dives every single weekend, summer, winter, autumn, spring for 2 years, there's an addiction there. People say, but that's healthy. Well, it's probably healthier than doing cocaine and heroin. It's healthier than eating Maccas.
But is it healthy if the cost factor of doing that means that you're negating important relationships, you're negating the cost factor of being in balance for other things?
That's it. For everything you do, there's something you're not doing.
Yeah.
And the other thing, probably more important, the fact that I was doing that all the time meant that I wasn't resolving the emotional drivers.
Right.
The mum, dad, brother, sister, teacher, all that childhood stuff, mainly before the age of 7, all that stuff, if we don't resolve it, it'll keep playing out.
Well, see, the interesting thing for me is, good old Anthony Robbins, I love him, right?
He's got a lot of great wisdom.
Oh, look, revolutionised my life.
That's where we met.
That's where we met. Anthony, I've got a lot of respect for Anthony. But he says, the resolution to a lot of depression, I don't know if this is the exact quote, but I don't like living in absolutes to make a statement, this means that. So I preface it with saying a lot of instead of all of. But a resolution to a lot of depression is living into a compelling future. Because people who don't have a vision, they perish if they don't have a compelling future.
Without vision, people perish.
Yeah. So for me, I've put a little statement in my little journal that says I live into an optimistic future. I'm living into an optimistic future, and I'm my highest priority, and I live a life of peace and calm. Now, I don't know if I'll retain the one I live a life of peace and calm, because if it's too peaceful and too calm, I'm going to get bored. But it's good.
You need the balance, though.
That's
if you don't have peace and calm, then maybe you're driven by anxiety. So
I'm enjoying the life of peace and calm at the moment.
But here's the interesting thing on affirmations, and prior to being introduced to EFT and NLP and timeline therapy and hypnotherapy, the most powerful tool I had was affirmations.
Yeah.
And I'd done a Kerry Riley Mind Powers course when I was in my 20s, coming out of all those injuries. And I remember I was driving back from Melbourne to Marimbula, where I lived at the time. I got as far as Pakenham, so that's half an hour down the road, and I was falling asleep at the road. And it was about 5 p.m. and I'm getting the snaps. And I thought, oh no, how am I going to make it? I've got to work tomorrow, I've got to get back tonight. And so I used the affirmation, I feel great, I have unlimited energy, I feel great, I have unlimited energy. Bullshit, this is going to work. No, do it, Russell. I feel great, I have unlimited energy. And I'm screaming that to myself as I'm driving down. Well, after a little while, I pumped, and I kept using that affirmation all the way there. I arrived at about 2 in the morning. I was that charged and wired that I actually sat down and did some tax admin work. Nothing puts me asleep better than trying to do admin work, I'll tell you.
You must have been wired.
And I had to do that to get to sleep. But here's the thing. Unlimited energy wasn't out of my belief system. I tend to be fairly energetic, and so that wasn't a problem. Here's the challenge with affirmations, though, and I use a money example. It'll equally work for weight. If someone's earning $30,000 a year, let's say someone's earning $100,000 a year, and they want to set a goal to earn 110. If they continually repeat the affirmation, I easily consistently earn over $110,000 a year, and let's say they do that for 10 or 20 minutes 2 or 3 times a day, before long they'll start acting that way, and they'll follow up, and that'll come to pass. But if they're earning $30,000 a year and they say, I easily and consistently earn $300,000 a year, every cell in their body is going to be saying, bullshit, you can't do that, you're too dumb, you're too old, you're too young, you're too stupid, you haven't got the education, blah, 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 blah. All your limiting beliefs will be actually what plays up.
Yep.
And those tail ends will stop you going. Now, it's the same with weight. I went round to a friend's place, and she had sticky notes with positive affirmations. I eat dessert once a month, I am slim and energetic, all these positive things. But I'm looking at her, she's really tense, because she's having all this positive stuff, wanting to take it in, but her whole psyche's going, that's impossible, I can't do it.
Yeah.
And what's under that is there's some trauma, there's some childhood trauma stuff.
Well, it's interesting you should say that, because I was 76 kilo just before COVID, 5 years ago. I was 76 kilo. So when I said I am my ideal weight, and put on the app, you know, what weight I was going to go, 76. Of course I hit the goal.
Yeah.
Right? Because it was believable. The other 4 kilo to get down to 72 is a different journey. Right? Because I'm thinking, well, I'm looking a bit skinny now. Maybe the comments are true, you know, I'm starting to look like a cancer victim. You know? So what I'm having issues with now with setting the affirmations and the goals is they can work against you as much as they can work for you if you're not careful with affirmations.
If they don't align with your current beliefs
and your values,
and if you haven't resolved the emotional drivers, that's got to be the biggest. You know, the woman I mentioned in the previous recording where they had to cut away the doorway to get her out, that weight gain happened after she was sexually abused. Until that sexual abuse issue is resolved, she's going to battle.
Yeah.
Even after they cut away 3/4 or 2/3 of her stomach.
Yeah.
You know, and she ended up with malnourishment after that, because if you cut away your stomach's designed to keep you healthy.
Well, I know that I've known people to go off and get those operations. I know personally a couple of those people, and I've noticed in a couple of those cases they've bounced back again to their previous problem because look, I say to people, I would rather live at cause than at effect. I would rather live by choice than circumstance. So I repeat that to myself all the time, and I know when I'm living at effect, and I know when I'm living by circumstance, and then I've got a decision to make in that moment. Do I step out of that circumstance? Do I change the effect of being a victim to a cause of pulling the locus of control into myself? And that's how I deal with it.
See, that's a conscious mind thing, which can help you. You've got a lot of strength, you've got a lot of focus, and you've exercised that muscle a lot. But it's damn hard work until you resolve the drivers.
I haven't resolved all my drivers because I know otherwise the drivers wouldn't be coming knocking on my door again, would they?
That's right. And also
I say go next door, we don't want you.
If you had resolved the drivers, then it would have been no more difficult to drop that last 4 kilos.
Yeah, that's right.
So there's something there going on.
The exciting part for me is the challenge I'm having now is bringing up stuff that I never knew existed. So it's like I'm getting to some core values, core beliefs, core behaviours, drivers. If I had stopped at the 76 and said, yeah, victory, let's just put on the muscle, I would never have had this whole plethora of discovery about myself and my limitations. I deal with this stuff, and then maybe instead of just going to intermediate at badminton, I can get to advanced. Maybe the muscle I put on can give me another 15, 20 years of longevity. But if I just had have cut it at 76, I would never have done the scuba diving and found the pearls of treasures. And what I'm finding, I don't like what I'm finding. It's not nice what I'm finding, but I'm glad I'm finding it because at least I can clean the cupboard.
Yeah. Look, it often gets a bit uncomfortable, but it's not as uncomfortable as yo-yo dieting. That messes your health and everything.
Or never getting down and resolving this stuff and not realising it's sabotaging you.
Yeah.
So you're out there playing your game of life, right? You feel, I'm 76, I'm looking pretty trim. But you know you're not playing at your best. You know you're not where you're meant to be. But you're putting on a facade to others, which you're really trying to put onto yourself. You're really trying to kid yourself that you went all the way and you got your goal. One of my pet dreams is one day when I pass, I'm going to get to meet the man I could have, would have and should have been, and I'm going to have no regrets. And I'm going to take that freaking hill, you know. I'm going up the mountain. I don't care who comes or who doesn't. They can bring their own tyre repair kits and their own pumps. I'm not pumping up other people's tyres anymore. I've given a whole life of lifting other people up, and now I've got to lift myself up. I've got to practice what I preach.
Well, yeah, I think we can't really lift others up until we lift ourselves up.
Pretty much.
And what I want to get onto in our next talk
Yep.
is about some tools to actually shift that deeper stuff.
Absolutely.
Because understanding that deeper stuff is there, it doesn't resolve it. Knowing
it
what
doesn't.
it is, logicking it, that does nothing.
Look, the few times I've had I'm an NLP practitioner, you're an NLP practitioner. You've been with EFT for many years. You've given me some beautiful training in EFT. But the times I've sat as a client with you and received your tutelage, your counselling and coaching, things have shifted.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to doing some more work with you because I want more of life. I'm not greedy, I'm hungry. There's a big difference. Greed breeds mean deeds. But hunger makes you crawl over broken glass to get what you want. And I intend to live way past 100. Dad got to 97, and if he hadn't had that fall, he would have easily cracked 100. So I've got the genes, I've got the makeup, and I've got the desire to do that. Why do I want to do that? Because in the next 30 years, I can do more than I've done in the last 70.
And I think that's important. There's no point getting there unless you've got a reason for it.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's look at that next time.
We've both got to go. We're on a timeline, but thanks for hanging in, and we hope that we will be back with some more of these duologues about health and well-being. We think that this is going to add a lot of value to a lot of people's lives. So thanks for listening in.
Thanks for listening.
Remember
Thanks
to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell.